If you're a mixing engineer or producer, strap in. We're going to talk about something as controversial as politics. That's right, headroom for mastering. I'm going to discuss this, but before I do, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe, tick the notification bell. How loud should your mix be before mastering? What peak value should it have? And the short answer in 2023 is it doesn't matter. Modern DAWs like Pro Tools, Logic, Cubase all internally process audio with 32-bit float systems or sometimes even 64-bit. A 32-bit float system uses a 32-bit word made of a 24-bit fixed point word bit and an added 8-bit exponent. The 8-bit exponent allows the mix engine to use a 24-bit word to accurately represent values outside the constraint of a 24-bit fixed point architecture. So you can represent values greater than 144 decibels of dynamic range or the 16,777,216 present values that are within that range. Now, if you want a full breakdown behind the geeky science behind this, I've left a link in a publicly available excerpt from the book Pro Tools Advanced Techniques and Workflows in the description below. In practical terms, when mixing, this means you can go over 0 decibels full scale in your DAW, as the 8-bit exponent provides that extra headroom to maintain all the relevant information without clipping. And I've set up a test here to show you that the maths check out. The first file is at 0 decibels full scale, 32-bit. The second sine wave is at plus 3 decibels full scale, 32-bit. The third sine wave is also at plus 3 decibels, but it is 24-bit, so it isn't 32-bit with the 8-bit float, it's 24-bit. And the final one is a negative 3 decibels, 32-bit. They're the same sine wave at different levels exported, so we've got 3 32-bit files, 1 24-bit. These have all been level matched to the negative 3 decibel one. So the 0 decibel one is gained down to the negative 3. The positive 3 decibel 32-bit export is gained down to the negative 3. And the positive 3 decibel 24-bit export is gained down to the negative 3. Now, I've level matched this to see if they null with one another. Everything nulls except the 24-bit file, which hard clips above 0. So you can hear that hard clipping straight away. And if you want to see some waveform analytics here, where's the plus 3 decibel 24-bit? So if I go on the plus 3 decibel 24-bit, I zoom all the way into the waveform, you can see the hard clipping sample points there. But if I go to the 32-bit file, you can see that those sample points actually reconstruct above 0 because it's got that extra headroom. And if we actually look at the full scale of this, you can see all that extra headroom you have on a 32-bit file. As long as you haven't hard clipped your export by exporting a 24-bit mix with information above 0 decibels full scale, you're going to be okay. Because mastering engineers can get any file that isn't above 0 decibels full scale and shift it up or down, or they can get 32-bit files with information above it and shift it down to give themselves headroom at their own discretion. However, everything I've been talking about right now pertains to the mixing engine in a DAW. It's not necessarily reflected the same in the internal architecture of the DSP plugin developers elect to use. So this is something to be aware of. Whilst the input and output of plugins on your channel strip will check out at the native 32-bit float of the system they run within, the internal DSP processing and the bit type architecture they elect to use is up to the discretion of the developer. So what this means is there are VST plugins and TDM plugins that still run at 24-bit. So whilst DAWs intelligently calculate 32-bit floating point and is very forgiving if you boost or sum a series of signals which exceed that 24-bit fixed floating point with the addition of an 8-bit exponent, not all plugins will do the same. So this is where this information becomes very important. So ahead of hitting any plugins, so as your signal goes into a plugin, it's important that you gain stage accordingly. If your signal feeding your drum bus is above 0 decibels full scale and your first plugin runs internally at 24 bits, it's going to be easy to overload and you'll lose that information above 0 decibels full scale, resulting in hard clipping and losing detail from your signal you just can't recover. And as a personal experience, I'm not sure why, but this is a common problem I find with producers working in Ableton. They overload their buses and have processors which are clipping internally, and this clipping is baked onto mixes which are sent to me for mastering, and I'm picking it up and they never even noticed it, and it's just a matter of you know, going back in and doing some tweaks in the mix to gain stage that correctly. So in the circumstance of the processing of the signal, leaving headroom in your mixing process and correctly gain staging is still very important. Now, this was a long-winded way of presenting to you that the idea of exporting mixes at -6 decibels full scale or -12 decibels full scale, or whatever it may be that your mastering engineer is representing, it's pretty much nonsense in the digital realm. As long as all the relative sample points are within the dynamic range available for the bit depth of the DAW's mixer and the export format that the mixers are being exported to, meaning the loudest peak is below its digital ceiling, it absolutely doesn't matter what level you export your master at. It'll always null, like we showed in these tests. What's more important is that you're conscious of gain staging between plugins and buses to not overload their internal DSP, and ultimately that you and the client are happy with the mix before sending it off to mastering. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I have an even more nerdy and technical dive on true peak limiters and why they do not sound worse than normal limiters. Just click on the video over here to watch that, and I know you'll enjoy it if you enjoyed this video. Take care.